But I connected with, so I've actually known Muhi for some time now, mashallah, because we were, when I was training in Michigan, that's when I really met him first. Those were his college days, my training days.
Mm-hmm.
So, but since then, since Muhi took over this project of American Muslim Foundation, we got to talk about the financial outlook of the community, tax saving strategies, what patterns and methods people use for zakat, and seems like this project was basically had a fairly good amount of really brilliant ideas and an avenue for professionals and institutions to collect funds in a pool where it gives you tax savings, but it also, because it's a specifically Muslim project, it has the ability to direct one's zakat money, and for organizations to be able to open endowment accounts. So I went ahead and I actually opened an endowment account for the nonprofit that I closely work with, along with Yasser, who's on the call here from Phoenix, which is the Whitestone Foundation. So we established that account, and then I also opened a personal account with them, and that's the personal account. We essentially donor advice fund, and that it replaces the need for creating a family foundation and things that are otherwise that are more expensive. And what I liked about it is that these investments, or these become investments because they have opportunity for growth, and within from that growth, both organizationally and individually, one's ability to giving capacity only increases. So, and I think that's the direction, right along with tax savings, was the right direction to go, and many professionals have that need. So Mui is going to go over basically the project itself, and then basically what the next uh, how this all works out, and at the end, what the meat of the product is. So we will let you take it from there. And if you want to introduce Fahad too, I can do it. So while you're setting it up, Fahad, you want to say a few words? Fahad's one of the co-organizers of the event with us today. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a great pleasure to have everybody on board. Just like most of you, I'm also very new to this work, but I definitely see the value. And just like Dr. Faisal mentioned, the need for this for our local community, I think it's a great project and something that we have been lacking in our local Southern California community. So bringing this home here today it means a lot to me personally, and of course you all will benefit from as well. And I hope that more of our Southern California community members join us today and take advantage of this presentation. And inshallah, we see how we can help this project forward, inshallah. So welcome everyone. And if you have any questions, just type them in the chat box, and I'll be monitoring that chat box for you. And then inshallah, I will have Muhi respond to you before we end this call today.
And just, Muhi, can you just tell people how to mute?
Yeah, of course. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Muhi Khwaja. Thank you, Faisal, so much for coordinating this and helping Fahad. So just very briefly, some housekeeping items. We are going to be recording the discussion today, so if you can also try to be on mute, that would be great. If you're on your cell phone, you just tap the screen, and then on the left side, you'll see the mute button. If you're on your laptop, the same thing. You just want to hit the screen, and then in the bottom left, you'll see the microphone to mute yourself. So a little bit about myself. As Faisal mentioned, we had originally met in Michigan, and I grew up there in the community in Canton, suburb of Detroit. And my parents were heavily involved in the community, and that's kind of the example that I saw in terms of volunteering and charitable giving and building the community. And that's really stuck with me throughout my entire career. After University of Michigan Dearborn, I went on to work at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, and they do great research on the American Muslim community. And I was their first development hire, meaning that I was in charge of their fundraising strategy. After a few years there, I went back to the university for my master's in public administration and nonprofit management. And after I wrapped that up, I moved out to California and worked for an organization in Fremont, California called Tetleaf Collective, and again, was in charge of their national fundraising strategy. After a few years there, I worked at the American Red Cross, where I worked for 5 years up until last year. And while I was at the Red Cross, I saw the need for the Muslim community to really advance their charitable giving opportunities and for nonprofits to be able to build more sustainability. So I took all of my experience and went to people in the Muslim nonprofit community that I knew of and shared this idea of establishing a community foundation for the Muslim community. And alhamdulillah, that's how we started AMCF in 2016. And I just went full-time with them last year. So now we're offering all of these services and would love to talk to you a little bit about this. We're going to be sharing this PowerPoint with you, so I may not touch on every single aspect, but you'll have it as a reference to go back to. And one of the things that I always like to talk about, you know, as Muslims, we're motivated by our faith to give to charity. And there's a famous poem by Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba from Senegal who talks about the Masalik al-Jinan and the pathways of paradise. And it references somebody who has passed away and their sole desire as they're trying to walk past the Sirat is to just get to paradise. And as they are walking across that bridge, there are these hooks that are trying to come and take them down. And we know that if we live a life in which we do everything that we can to the best of our ability that we can and in the best way that we can, that we will not be challenged on that sirat. And one of the ways that we can do that is through giving charity. And in the poem, he talks about how giving charity is an affirmation of our trust in this faith, that it purifies our wealth, that it protects us from calamity, that it expiates our sins, and it brings joy to the people who we give it to. So with that, I'd like to start and talk about like how zakat and sadaqah is a means for us to purify our wealth, is a means for us to share our risk that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So we're coming from charitable giving from that aspect. So as I mentioned, we started this community foundation, and really community foundation is a publicly supported nonprofit institution that is governed by a board of directors, which serves its donors, the nonprofit sector, and the community overall. So our vision is to lead sustainable and strategic Muslim philanthropy for today and future generations. Our mission is to cultivate donor giving and diversify funding to advance charitable causes. And I'll briefly share some of our board members and advisory members. So the president of our board is Sister Safa Ibrahim. She had been with CARE National a long time, several local San Francisco Bay Area organizations, a long time, CARE California, CARE San Francisco Bay Area, Averroes Institute, and has about 20 years of nonprofit experience. Our vice president is Sister Agnes Chong. She's a PhD in nonprofits and has done a lot of research in Muslim nonprofit organizations as well. Our treasurer and also chair of our investment committee is Umar Hassan. He is a CFO at a small investment firm in New York. Ayman El-Sawah is one of our co-founders as well and a general board member, and he's an IT professional. Michael Ramos Lynch is an entrepreneur and lawyer in Austin, Texas. And then I serve as our director of development and philanthropy. So on our advisory committee, we have different people who just help out with human resources, strategic planning, marketing, investments, and religious fiqh issues. So we have a wide variety of people who help and serve on our advisory committee as well. So I'll skip the video. And this is really just to show you across the United States, there are over 700 community foundations, but none of them were representative of the Muslim community. So we are the first and only that is for the Muslim community by the Muslim community. And like I said, we started in 2016. And throughout that time, from 2016 until now, you can see our journey. And we started with a strategic plan. We started with developing the structure for our organization. We started raising funds and building capacity of our own institution. And alhamdulillah, to date, we now operate 75 donor advised funds and have given out $1.7 million to charities on their behalf. And I really want to focus on what our core services are, and we're here to talk about donor advised funds, so I want to just jump into that as well. So some of the other services that we provide are giving circles, where a group of family or friends can give together to common causes. And then for nonprofit organizations, as Faisal mentioned, we set up endowments, and then we also do what's called fiscal sponsorship. And if you're interested in those other services, feel free to reach out at a later time. So donor advised funds are a giving vehicle that provide you with an immediate tax benefit, and they give you the opportunity to choose the charities of your choice at a later time. So you give the money up front to American Muslim Community Foundation, you get the tax receipt when you make the donation, but then you can hold on to that cash for years or for months, or pass it on generation to generation. You can name it after your family, so it's a good alternative to a family foundation. And you can also invest your balance, whereas if you were just giving directly to charities, you don't have that additional benefit. So you can use this as a sadaqah jariyah for a loved one, and so many other benefits of giving together with other people. So some of the programs that we offer, again, we're going to be starting a podcast later this year. We're going to be starting a nonprofit accelerator later this year. We provide professional development funds to nonprofits. We're going to be launching the Philanthropy Awards and Muslim Philanthropic Values. So there's a lot of creative work that we're doing. And later this month in Ramadan, we're going to be doing a 5-minute interview series with a different charity every day. So those are some of the things that you have to look forward to. And essentially, in terms of donating today, there's a lot of ways in which you can give, but oftentimes it's inefficient. There's lack of planning for fundraisers. There's uncomfortable, long drawn out pitches, and we just want to get to the point or be able to support the causes that we already know that we're going to support. Like, how many times do you go to an event and you already have an amount in mind and that's what you want to do? So being able to use the donor advised fund to plan all of that out allows you to do that. So here's just some other facts in terms of what motivates donors. And like I said, we're going to be sharing this later. So you can just read on the screen in terms of what main things are that motivate donor base. And some of the reasons why people don't give are because they were not asked, or they think that their gift does not make an impact, or that there's a lack of trust. So hopefully we can build a relationship between you and the nonprofit organizations through your donor advised fund for you. This information here is from the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, ISPU. And then this is what motivates donors to give. So the main reason is people like to give because the feeling that those with more should help those with less. And then it's their religious duty and obligation, and that giving makes them feel good. And then it compares the data with the general public. So again, you can take a look at the ISPU Muslim Philanthropy Study for more details on that. And we'll skip through the videos for now. And we know that sadaqah and salah and zakat are mentioned so many times throughout the Quran. And this is just to stress the importance that if it is one of our pillars of the faith, we know that it's an obligation. And we know that sadaqah is mentioned with prayer so many times throughout the Quran. It just places the importance of this act of worship as well. So there's some statistics, again, that were done by Pew Research Group on the ethnic breakdown of the American Muslim community. So likely to no surprise, it's a pretty even split between South Asian, Arab, and Black community. And then there is a growing population of Hispanic and Caucasian Muslims as well. So this just goes to show that there's not one majority in the Muslim community, and we hope to reflect that in our charitable giving as well. So I believe MPAC and MGAGE have come out with statistics that showcase that there's at least 1.5 million registered Muslim voters. The Dinar Standard had mentioned in a report that there are over 2,000 mosques in the United States and 300 Muslim schools with over 40,000 students. And GuideStar shows that there are over 5,500 Islamic nonprofit organizations. So how can we take the impact that American Muslims can have in the community and showcase it for the general public as well? Muslims in America have a disposable income of $124 billion. There's, at the low end, a conservative estimate of at least 3.75 million Muslims. And Muslims are the second largest non-Christian group in over 20 states. So in charitable giving overall, in the United States, Americans gave $427 billion in 2018. And 70% of that came from individuals, and a majority of that funding, 30%, went to religious causes. So all of this data is compiled by Indiana University in a report called Giving USA, and they publish that annually. So again, through our Islamic tradition, we know that there's importance on doing acts of charity. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh reported that the Messenger of Allah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, every joint of a person must perform a charity each day that the sun rises. So we know, again, that every single day we should be doing something that is of benefit to other people. And what better way than sadaqah through your charity or giving your zakat? So another video that I'll pass on to let you know. So here we are, the main crux of what we are talking about today, donor advised funds. So we started by saying that it's a giving vehicle. Think of it like a savings account, but just your charitable giving. So you can put in cash, you can put in stocks, you can put in real estate or other assets that you own. And it's best to give appreciated assets because you'll avoid a capital gains tax. So when we're talking today about strategic and effective ways to give and be tax efficient, a donor advised fund allows for that. And any nonprofit organization can accept a gift of stock, but they may need to set up a brokerage account and they don't have the staff capacity to do so. Or they may be able to receive a gift of somebody's home if they left it away in a will, but they don't know how to handle that. So these are the things where a nonprofit organization can partner with American Muslim Community Foundation to still receive those gifts. So essentially what happens, if you look at the cycle and the image below, you as a family will give your gift upfront to American Muslim Community Foundation. In return for that donation, American Muslim Community Foundation, AMCF, will give you a receipt. And if it is, let's say, a stock that maybe when you purchased it 5 years ago was at a value of $20, but now it's at $100. So if you're able to donate that appreciated asset, you will avoid a capital gains tax. And we'll talk about the benefits of donating assets on the next few slides as well. So AMCF uses religiously ethical and socially responsible investments. And luckily, through this market turndown, we kept all of our assets as cash. So luckily, all of the families who have donor advised funds or nonprofits that have endowments with us, their balance is as it was when they gave it to us. So again, once you give the funding to American Muslim Community Foundation, you can use our nonprofit directory to select a charity of your choice to pass the money on to. And that process for a nonprofit organization to be added to our directory is pretty simple. They just simply fill out a form on our website and they tell us a little bit more about their organization, who their board members are, do they have a diversity clause, all of these things, because we want to make sure that they're abiding by the best practices as well. So they fill out the form, they share their 990 documents with us or a financial statement, and we review that and then add the charity to our directory, which can be found on our website. So then AMCF writes a check to those nonprofit organizations on a monthly basis anytime a family indicates they want to make a donation to them. There are reports that you as a donor will see, and also a separate report that the nonprofit will see as well. And it clearly indicates whether the gift was zakat or sadaqah for a specific project or how it should be categorized. So some of the benefits of a DAF as well. You get one tax receipt for all of your charitable giving. So think about if you're filing your taxes still, now that the deadline is extended, you're trying to collect all of your 2019 donations. Some of them might be electronic withdrawal from your bank. Another one might be on a credit card statement. Another one could have just been some cash that you put into a mosque bin. But in order to consolidate all of that, the benefit of donating through a donor advised fund is that we handle that single receipt anytime you make a contribution to your donor advised fund. So it allows you to set aside the money now and donate it later. And I do see some chats coming through with questions as well. So in terms of the $427 billion that all Americans gave in 2018, it's hard to assess how much of that came from Muslims. But the reason why we're starting this organization is to track that, right? 75 families since 2017 have given $1.7 million. Imagine if we had 100,000 Muslim families working with us. We could say that we were giving hundreds of millions of dollars. So the opportunity to scale and make impact and track that is exactly why we started this community foundation. And then the other question that I see as well was, can you still deduct the amount that appreciated asset in addition to avoiding capital gains tax? That's a fantastic question. And the answer is yes. When you give your appreciated asset, you get the fair market value of the donation. So again, if you bought it at $50 and now it's $150, you get it at $150, and your brokerage will transfer that asset directly to our brokerage account, and then we will liquidate it. So by transferring the asset directly, you avoid a capital gains tax, and it allows the nonprofit to receive more money, because instead of you having to cash that asset out and then donate it, it allows you to get the full potential deduction of that asset. And I'll get to the next few questions in the next few slides, because I think they're a better fit when we talk about donating appreciated assets as well. So again, the benefits of a donor advised fund: it allows you to keep track of all of your donations, whether they're zakat or sadaqah, in one place. And we can set up that after you calculate your zakat value, making sure that it's distributed within 1 year of you calculating it. We, as a community foundation, have a really great pulse on the nonprofit community needs at a grassroots level. We deal with Muslim charities and general non-religious charities as well. So it showcases the impact. Like, let's say you give to your alma mater where you trained as a physician. You want to give back and show them that you appreciate the training and mentorship that you received. So you give a donation to your medical school or to whatever university that you went to. This gift is going to come from American Muslim Community Foundation on behalf of Faisal Qazi or whoever else sends it. So it showcases that the Muslim community cares about their institution as well. And to finish off this slide, again, we go through a vetting process of all of the charities so that when you make a gift to us, you are putting your trust in us to make sure that we are giving it to an institution that is in compliance with the IRS and all of that. So again, you can name a donor advised fund after a loved one. It's easy to set up a Sadaqah Jariyah project, and the balance can be passed on from you to your kids, and for them to then make decisions on how to support the charities that you love and that they love as well. So here is the slide for benefits of donating appreciated assets. So if the asset depreciates while it's in the possession of the donor advised fund, the only thing that's affected is the amount of money that you can give to the charity. you still get the fair market value on the day of the gift of when you made it. So, you know, a good example is the current stock market, right? So if you made a gift in January when things were relatively okay, you get the deduction for the amount of the value of those stocks in January. Our policy is to liquidate all assets within 5 days. So we cash that asset out, and then we hold on to it as cash. And luckily, we didn't reinvest it this year. So in the future, yes, we may reinvest those that cash into new religiously ethical Islamic investments. And if that value goes down, then yes, your ability to make a donation decreases by that amount as well. But you still get the fair market value for your tax deduction. There are fees for the service. It is competitive on the market. You can go to Chase, Fidelity, Schwab, any financial institution up and down the street and open up a donor advised fund. But we are the only one on the market that understands the Muslim community and has a pulse of the grassroots organizations that serve our community as well. So we are competitive on the market. There is a slide at the end that talks about the fees, but just really briefly, it's $125 a year if your balance is under $20,000, and the minimum to open a donor advised fund is only $2,500. If your value of your donor advised fund is under $500,000, it is 0.65% per year of your cumulative balance. So again, we'll share that information. Sometimes it's hard to grasp just in a conversation, but you can find it on our website under the FAQ as well. So again, the benefit of donating appreciated asset is when you give directly to a nonprofit organization, you're transferring that asset to them directly, and they'll receive it, and then the nonprofit will sell it, and the nonprofit avoids a capital gains tax as well because it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So instead of having to take a 20% deduction on that, you're able to give more money. So again, for easy math, let's say that you had $100,000 in your of appreciated assets. And even if you are older than 70 and a half years old and you had that in your IRA, you could donate that. If you didn't need it as your required minimum distribution and you'd be hit with a penalty, you can donate from your IRA when you're older than 70 and a half years old without penalty up to $100,000 a year. So for example, I know my parents take advantage of giving from their IRA as opposed to giving from their Social Security or other income that they have as well. So you avoid the capital gains tax and you get to take the charitable deduction in the amount of the fair market value, and it allows you to give more to the nonprofit organization. At that time, if you wanted to reinvest at the market, you would reduce your future capital gains tax by purchasing at current market value of stock as well. Life insurance can be given as an asset or gift to any nonprofit organization, and specifically also to a donor advised fund. But what the industry standards suggest is that if you have life insurance, you should pass on the life insurance to your family. And if you have IRA or 401k or those types of assets, that should be given to a charity. Because let's say you pass away and you had a 401k and your spouse was the beneficiary or your kids were the beneficiary, they're still going to get hit with the tax on that 401k or IRA. So it's a life insurance policy is not taxed. So if you have your family members on your life insurance policy, it allows you to then put that full amount of money to your family through the life insurance policy. And then your 401k and your IRA, if you list a charity as the beneficiary, there's no taxes on that money. So that's a great question. So we will, again, feel free to keep putting your questions in there. We're almost through the rest of these slides, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A as well. So here's an example of being able to give through a donor advised fund. Let's say you support 10 different charities at $500 each every year, and you donate multiple times throughout the year, and you struggle to collect your tax receipts, and you don't necessarily have a follow-up point of contact at the charity. They don't give you their receipt. They don't update you with how that money was used. There's a whole bunch of issues in that scenario. But if you give through a donor advised fund, whether it's a combination of stock or just cash, you avoid that capital gains tax. You get the full amount of deduction. You can invest your balance for future growth. You get one tax receipt, and AMCF vets the charities for you and keeps track of all your zakat for you and simplifies the entire process from start to finish. So AMCF will also handle the donation for you, and you'll be able to see that in your report, and the nonprofit will also be able to see that in their report of who the gift is coming to, or it allows you to anonymously give. So there's plenty of flexibility with a donor advised fund, where if you were just giving to a nonprofit organization directly, you miss out on those benefits. So again, the organization gets a receipt and you get a receipt as well. So that's a good question about the 401k to heirs if their estate is less than the federal limit. I'll have to double check on you, but my understanding was that there is still a minimal penalty in that case. The federal limits, I believe, are now closer to $12 million of assets, but we actually have a presentation with an estate planning lawyer on Tuesday this week. So if you're interested, join that one and you'll be able to ask the estate planning lawyer directly. So again, to open a donor advised fund, it's a minimum of $2,500. We ask that you have a 5-year commitment with us. And when you donate to a nonprofit organization, you will receive, they will receive at least $100. So let's say you typically give 25 bucks a month. We'll wait until the balance is 100 to distribute it to the charity. Or if there is, you just want to write a one-time gift to a charity, it has to be at least $100. So there's more information on our website. If you go to our website, there's the donor tab. It has exactly how to open up a donor advised fund. And we actually just started this neat text feature where if you text DAF to 71441, it'll walk you through how to set up your donor advised fund. So here's the administrative fee. And again, the first $500,000 is 0.65% or $125 per year, whichever is greater. And we have a sliding scale for larger amounts of balance in your donor advised fund. This is highly competitive on the market, whether you go to Schwab, Fidelity, or another financial institution and ask them about donor advised funds, you won't find a better deal, a better understanding of the Muslim community and service. So we highly encourage you to compare, but we firmly believe that American Muslim Community Foundation will be your best partner for your donor advised fund. So again, we know the importance of charitable giving. And if there's one thing that we as humans love, it's our ability to feel comfortable with what we have. And we understand that money provides that comfort through the wisdom and benefit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a verse that says, never will you attain the good reward until you spend in the way of God from which you love. And whatever you spend, indeed, God is knowing of it. So again, it's hard to separate from things that you love. There's a sense of security, especially even in this time where people are unsure of the economic climate, but we're still obligated to give our zakat. And this is a way in which you can still reap the rewards. And although so much of life has changed in these last few months due to the coronavirus, the one thing that will remain the same is our ability to make an impact, whether it's with our time, with our resources, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be able to reward us for that. Whether it's simply an intention, we know that if we have a good intention, it's rewarded. And if we act on that good intention, it's rewarded multiplied. So there's so many ways in which you can take advantage of a donor advised fund. And one of the other services we talked about were giving circles, but I'll leave that for another conversation. And we know that if we want to seek sustenance, we can do it through our charitable giving. One of the other benefits, again, I said, was that we research and vet the nonprofits for you. We make sure that they have all of their documents in compliance with the IRS. And here's an example of if you were to donate and invest your balance. Let's say you started this in the year 2000 and we invested with Amana Mutual Funds. $10,000 every single year from 2000 to 2018 yielded in a portfolio that would be a value of $537,000 and $537,000 and $593. So we know that even on an investment of $180,000 at $10,000 a year, the benefit of being able to invest your money is there as well. You're more than welcome to keep your DAF balance as cash, and we do that for a lot of our clients. Some will put in more into the stock market, some will put it more into cash, some will keep it all in the stock market for future growth. But like I said, alhamdulillah, for all of our clients, we had it as cash, and we were planning on investing before Ramadan, but with the case of everything going on, we held on to our cash assets. So we want you to join AMCF because we already have 76 families across the country that are using these services. We already operate 6 giving circles. We have close to $1 million of assets under management. We've given out $1.7 million to over 60 nonprofit organizations. So we've been at this for 3 years. We're looking to continue to grow. We want to work with as many families across the country as possible and scale our efforts. You can find more information about our financial transparency and review our 990 documents or any other questions that you have on our website. And you can also see exactly how that $1.7 million got distributed to the charities. We provide full disclosure and transparency on our website. That's very important to us. And we're looking to, as we just raised over $1 million in 2019, we're preparing our 990 documents for 2019 right now. And we're looking to get audited as well because we truly believe in the financial transparency and setting a good example for other nonprofits to do the same. So we know through the hadith that the deeds most loved by Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. So even if you have a bunch of small monthly donations being set out to other nonprofit charities, we can help you consolidate them and help you make an impact. One of the benefits of giving with all of these other families is, for example, in Ramadan, we know that 4 or 5 of the families are giving to a certain organization. So then we told that organization, hey, we have $10,000 from these families to give to you in Ramadan. Use it as a matching challenge to your donor base. So again, if you were just giving to those charities independently on your own, we wouldn't be able to come up with these creative ways for nonprofits to take advantage of this. So this is just a little bit on our background. we've had an operational budget in the last few years of around $150,000. We ourselves want to become sustainable and plan to do that. If we can get to 1,000 donor advised funds or $10 million of assets under management, whichever comes first, we won't need to fundraise for our own operations. So that's our long-term goal. By 2022, I guess that's short-term, it's only 2 years away, we want to be fully sustainable, where just off of our administrative fees, we're able to hire more staff, scale our operations, and continue to grow. So the fee can be paid by the donor upfront. Like, let's say they started with $10,000, it can be taken from that $10,000, or the family can give $10,125 for it to be taken out. So it's really up to the preference of the family how those funds are taken out. A giving circle, since you asked, is the opportunity for you and a group of friends to pool your resources together. So you and your siblings, you and your friends from college, you and local community members, however you want to work it. We have a family that plays fantasy football together, and each of them pitch in $500. Then whoever wins the season gets to decide which charity to give that money to. So it can be as unique as that, or it can be as sophisticated as in the Bay Area, there were a group of 18 families that gave $5,000 of their zakat. And then they each nominated a charity and then discussed which charities and which programs that pool of funding should go to. And originally, they were planning on making their distribution in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. But when everything happened, due to the coronavirus, they moved their schedule up. They interviewed the nonprofit organizations in March. They made their decisions in early April, and we were able to give $56,000 to Penny Appeals campaign for financial hardship grants, and we're able to give $24,000 to the Crescent Zakat Fund, which is at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, where they help families with their living expenses while their children are going through treatment. So this was a very unique way of a giving circle adapting to the current climate and making a deep impact in a strategic way. So we do give to nonprofit organizations internationally for an additional fee. And the way that it is set up is the IRS, if there's a charity that is registered in a country in Africa or in the UK or in Asia, the IRS has additional regulations that need to take place, and they request a fee for that vetting. So basically, let's say that you were interested in a specific nonprofit organization in another country. We would have to pay anywhere from $250 to $500 to get that charity vetted by the IRS. So if you were going to be giving $2,000 to that charity, we would ask you to give $2,500 or $2,250, depending on which country that nonprofit is registered in. Of course, we can give to nonprofit organizations that are registered in the United States but do work internationally, and there's no additional fee for that. But for our donor advised fund families, we can process international gifts with a few extra steps. And any donation from a donor advised fund or a giving circle always has to go to a 501c3 or international nonprofit organization. It can't go to individuals. So that's the one main difference between setting up your own private family foundation and having that flexibility versus a donor advised fund.
Yeah, Muhi, if people want to ask questions to you, and they can unmute, they don't always have to type. So
sure, I think just to maybe manage, instead of all people going at once, if you have a question, just say that you do, and then maybe Fahad can nominate a person to ask their question, and then we'll go that way. And I want to make sure that I've answered all the questions so far, and it looks like I have.
I don't know if you can hear me, but
Yes.
I was just curious to know, once it's in the fund, well, let's say, because you mentioned you liquidated assets within 5 days of receiving the funds.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in a different place, you mentioned that assets might be retained in the fund, and you can kind of invest them as you wish.
Yes.
Which is, I think, the 18-year example that you gave. So is it the donor who decides how to invest, or is it the AMCF that decides how to invest it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And similarly to other financial institutions, if you have your balance under, if you have your investment strategy under $250,000, we're going to direct where that investment goes collectively with all the other families and nonprofits who have endowments with us. If you come in with an investment of $250,000 or more, then we will direct it based on your financial investment manager's suggestion, and they can even manage the portfolio for you. And there's a few other creative ways that if you come in with a larger amount to be invested for your donor advised fund, that we can work together strategically with you or your financial manager to make that happen. But we have a separate investment committee that our treasurer is the chair of, and they make the decisions of how we make our investments for our own endowment, the charities endowments that we work with, and for the balance of the donor advised funds that we have.
So let's say a person donates a appreciated asset, and then and then let's say that asset is now in the possession of the fund, and then let's say it for whatever reason it depreciates while in the fund.
Yeah.
So you get the appreciated value when you deduct it from your taxes, and you get the capital gains benefit. But then when you come to pay the zakah, it's based on what was actually given to the organization, right?
Yeah, so when you deal with appreciated assets, it's a little bit trickier. And we have a presentation on Tuesday with Owais Dadaboy, who some of you may be familiar with from SoCal, of Amana Mutual Funds and Saturna Capital. So he's going to talk about exactly how to calculate zakat on appreciated assets. So there's two things that I'll say about that point. When you donate to American Muslim Community Foundation, since we are an administrator of zakat, theoretically, we fulfill your obligation upon you giving it to us. We will, of course, give it and distribute it to end user organizations that you are interested in for the purpose of zakat projects. But from a theoretical standpoint, you have given your zakat and calculated your zakat, and then you have a year to distribute your zakat from that point. So you can deduce that your obligation is fulfilled once you give it to AMCF. But if you are of the opinion that you want to get it to the end user, and in that case, the assets have depreciated, that is something that I'm not qualified to answer. So what I would say is, since we are liquidating the asset when you give it to us, that value is the amount you should calculate it on. But let's say we then reinvest it and then it depreciates further. That's what, unfortunately, I don't I'll find out for you on Tuesday, and we can ask that question to Oaze and see how they handle that for their clients specifically. So the tax receipt is based on what we give to the DAF or what comes out of the DAF. Yeah, so when you give to AMCF, that is what your tax receipt will say. So again, if you gave $25,000, now you're itemizing because you're married and you're filing taxes. So you gave your $25,000 to your donor advised fund. We will give you a receipt that says $25,000. You don't have to distribute a penny of that if you don't want to. And you will still get that receipt for $25,000. Of course, we want you to distribute and benefit other charities and do all of that. So we would encourage you to distribute some of that $25,000, but legally you are not obligated to. So it is a donor advised fund because the donor advises where to donate. Yes. So legally speaking, you are giving that money to AMCF. And AMCF is the owner of those funds. So legally, we are not contractually obligated to do anything with that money. But the understanding and practice of donor advised funds is that the donor will still be able to make suggestions, and the owner of those assets, whether it's Fidelity or Chase or in this case AMCF, we will act on your behalf to fulfill that request. And again, we ask that all the charities are eligible to receive those funds by filling out a form on our website, and we work with those charities, and we already have over 350 nonprofits across the country that are in our nonprofit directory. And yeah, right now for donors who set up a donor advised fund and don't bring in more than $250,000, they will not have the privy to suggest where to donate it. You can definitely tell us your preference on, I want it to be moderate or aggressive or things like that, but our investment committee is the one who decides on the end investment strategy. And you have full right to say, I only want to keep it in cash, and that's what we'll do. So when it comes to investment, if you have less than $250,000 to invest, it'll be in the pool of funds that we invest with the Sharia compliant models on the market. And hopefully that provides more clarity to your question.
And Muhi, if for example, so there's dividends and growth from the investment, would a donor wanna, if a donor wants to withdraw that and take it, is that something that's done with DAFs? Or that sounds rather odd, but I'm just wondering, like, or if somebody wants to close the account, like what happens?
Yeah. So again, the end recipient always has to be a charity. So it could be for your future charitable growth, but it cannot go back to an individual. It'd also be possible for it to go to a family foundation where there's a little bit more lax rules, but it's not a best practice. And like I said, you can pass it on. If you wanted to close your donor advised fund, you could pass it on to another individual to manage the balance of those assets. You could say AMCF can have it for their operations or their endowment, or you could say that you want to split up the balance between 3 or 5 nonprofit organizations. So then, you say, okay, when I pass away, as part of my estate plan, I want to make sure that 1/3 of my charity goes, 1/3 of my estate goes to charity. And I want to do that and pair my estate plan with a trust or a donor advised fund that acts on my behalf when I pass away. So those are all things that the donor advised fund balance can be zeroed out and be given and split up to nonprofit organizations.
And we just go over how would a nonprofit apply, to open an endowment or their account, even just a fund account, growth account?
Yeah, of course. Let me share my screen again, and we will go to that website so you see. So bear with me. This is the first time I'm trying to do it to a live site. So the application, well, we'll just visit the website first, right? So we have a page where nonprofits can go to. And once this loads, you can see that there's a section for nonprofits. So this is the landing page for nonprofit organizations. And if you hover over this nonprofit tab, there will be a drop down that says eligibility form. And of course, when we want things to work, they will not work. But just to give you an idea, here we go. So the nonprofit directory is where you can see all the charities, but then the eligibility form is where a nonprofit would go to. And they would fill out this form that's listed here, right? They say the year they were founded, what type of services they want from us, how they found out about us, what their address is, their contact information, their social media links, what their mission and vision is, how large their staff is, how many board members they have. And a nonprofit should be able to fill this form out within 20 minutes if they have all of their ducks in a row. A lot of times they may need to go ask a treasurer or their bookkeeper for more information. But generally speaking, somebody who's on their fundraising staff or the executive director should know all of these things off the top of their head if they have been with the organization for some time. So again, we ask them for their IRS determination letter, ask them if they create an annual report. We ask them to email us stuff. If they're on Charity Navigator or GuideStar, to share those links. So yes, it is a few more questions than normal, but we do that so that we have a better understanding of how we can assist that nonprofit organization. And then you can take a look at those over 300 organizations that have already filled out this form. So you can see how much money we've given to charities based on our donors and families. And there are certain projects on here that we code by our grant initiatives and what they do. And you can see where they are and what their social media handles are. So again, there's a lot of organizations on here that you can find out about and learn more about. And there are no fees for the nonprofit organizations. We provide every penny that the donor indicates right to the nonprofit. So the tax receipt is always for the original amount that was donated to AMCF when you open your donor advised fund. So again, the fees come from the families who are using this service. And if the nonprofit sets up an endowment, yes, we are charging the nonprofit for that service. But in order to receive funding from us, they just need to fill out this form and update it annually. So, and then you see some organizations are blank, right? They haven't received any money from us, but that's because the nonprofit came to our website and filled out the form themselves instead of a family indicating they wanted to support that nonprofit. And of course, we support that. We want the families who work with us to know about as many causes as possible. And I try to set up as many meetings with the families to get a better understanding of what their charitable giving preferences are. What's the issue they want to solve in the world? How can they go about doing that? So for an example was one family wanted to build water wells in countries in Asia and Africa. So we produced a report amongst our organizations in our nonprofit directory saying, okay, hand pumps cost $425 in this country, but they cost $550 in another country. Water wells with storage tanks cost $2,500 from this charity, but if you work with this charity in another country, it's $5,000. So we provided all of that research to the family, and then they decided on 5 hand pumps that they wanted to build in different countries. These are great questions. What else do you guys want to know?
Yeah, Muhi, I think we can just if you don't mind putting your email up there, and people can send you additional questions or
Yeah, so
if you need it.
what I'll do is I'll send this link, and if you want to have a conversation with me, you can do that, and I'll also drop my email address in the chat right now, so you have access to it. Most of you should have received an email from me for the reminder of this, so you can also find us there. I see another question. So anytime you want to make a distribution, you simply, like in that report that we create for you, right now it's a Google Sheet. So we do need to work on our technology side. But me being the sole staff member of this community foundation, we're working on it. It's just a longer timeline to implement. But you can indicate you wanting to make your distribution in text message or in email to me, and as your philanthropic advisor, I then indicate it in our work with our bookkeeper to indicate it as a payment to go out in our monthly distributions. So we will have a form for that eventually, but again, you know, I just ask families to send me that Excel sheet on Google Sheets. And for example, like our Ramadan distributions, we need to know by Monday, April 20th to make a distribution in the first week of Ramadan. So families are letting us know, okay, we want to send $1,000 here, 5,000 here, 500 there, and then we schedule it in our payment system on the back end. And then for gifts to arrive in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, we're asking the families to let us know by May 12th. So that way it gives us enough time to process those donations. So as long as the families are aware of when we are processing the gifts for that month, we are always communicative about that. Typically it's once a month, but in the case of Ramadan and December, we like to do 2 a month, just to get more money out the door. So if you go to that link of the one that I sent in the chat, you'll be able to schedule a quick 30 minutes with me by using that link, and you can plug in time on my calendar at your leisure. Again, so how to open up a donor advised fund, right? That's going to be another important question. So go to the donor tab. And then you'll find on the bottom of this page how to open a DAF. So these are the things that you want to do in this order. You fill out our DAF inquiry form, which you can find just from our drop-down. You know, I'll add it to the drop-down menu, but it's on this page as well under donor advised funds. So even if you go to the donor advised fund page, it tells you the first step on how to open up a DAF, this button right here. You fill out this form, and then I get an email notification that you filled it out. So after you fill out this form, it asks you about your giving preferences, how much you typically give a year, what charities you like to support, and all of those details. Then I'm notified and I reach out to you about setting up a phone conversation one-on-one, and then you sign an MOU with us that pretty much says everything we talked about today, that there's an annual fee, that we'd like you to use it for a minimum of 5 years, that we legally will work with you to distribute it to the charities of your choice, but the nonprofits need to be in our directory, and all of those things are clear and upfront. And then, you know, we've only run into 1 or 2 examples out of 780 distributions to nonprofits, only 2 examples of the nonprofit not filling out the form. So it's a very low rate, and we've had a high success model of being able to work with the charities to get them signed up with us. So again, we ask you, like, how are you going to make your distribution to us? And then anytime you want to make a distribution to your donor advised fund, on the donate page, it says donate to your DAF. So you come here and then you fill out this form, and we'll know that this amount of money you're selecting is specifically for your donor advised fund. You can do an EFT withdrawal, which is the most cost-effective way for us. The most cost-effective way, honestly, is appreciated assets. And if you wanted to donate appreciated assets, you go to ways to donate, and then we have a form that indicates to you that you are notifying us that you will make a distribution from your brokerage account. So here is the details of what you tell your brokerage account when you make a gift of your appreciated assets to us. So again, this form is on our website under ways to donate. And then you scroll down to where it says donate appreciated assets. You fill out the form. It pretty much tells us that you want to donate for your donor advised fund, or even if you wanted to support us, you could donate appreciated assets for our operations. But you fill out this form and we simply ask how many shares we should expect and what stock and the date of transfer of when you intend to make it. So when you fill out these things, then it'll notify us, but you still have to share this information with your brokerage firm, and you simply tell them, I'm making a charitable donation. And then they will make sure that they do not liquidate it, but that they simply transfer the number of stocks and the shares that you are interested in transferring to us as a charity. So if you want to add your alma mater, yes, they are required to sign up if you wanted to get the money to them. And even in that nonprofit directory, we have at least 10 universities in there already. They know to expect these types of things when working with donor advised funds. This is common that a nonprofit would have to be in the donor advised funds directory to receive information. So even if we did a quick search and did university, you know, it's showing that there's 9, and then of course some other ones won't be listed as university, but you know, we have Stanford, we have University of Chicago, University of Texas at Austin, University of Illinois, University of Michigan, and a few others. So. Keep the questions coming. This is good.
Yeah, Mauricio, everybody can email you. We can probably, you know, stop at this point if it's okay with you, and you know, then we can all catch up as needed.
Yeah, of course. I'm here as a resource for you in any of your questions about charitable giving. This is what I personally geek out about. This is what I went to school for, and I'm here to be of service to you to help you and your family meet your charitable goals. So I sincerely pray and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless you and your families and all the work that you're doing. And, you know, we want to work with you to showcase that the Muslim community cares about these nonprofit organizations that you want to support. So there's enough time for you to still set this up before Ramadan and distribute all of your giving in Ramadan. So I hope that you find value in what we talked about today. And thank you so much, Faisal and Fahad, for helping set this up. And I will share this recording with people as well. And you can, we'll even share the presentation slides with you as well, so that you can share that with people. So Fahad, before we close, can you actually find the message of the PowerPoint deck and put it in the chat before we close, please?
Yes, I'll go ahead and do that.
Thank you. Faisal, or if there are any other last questions before we close? I mean, okay. So Faisal, yeah, you want to close us out with the dua, Faisal? After saying the word?
Thank you again, everybody. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu wassalamu ala Rasulil Kareem. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our Ramadan beneficial and help us get through these difficult times together, and that our charity be the virtues that get us through to this tough time and in the akhirah, inshallah. Ameen. Jazakallah khairan. We'll see you guys all soon, inshallah.